So welcome to all the participants that are here. Just to know that you are in the right session here, we're going to talk about the impact of EU food quality schemes. We're going to look at the evidence that we gathered during the project, and we're going to look ahead also. This is the program of the session. So we start with 5 short presentations, and they each focus on a different aspect of impact of food quality schemes. I'll kick off with looking at insights on impact on farm performance. Then Kim McGill from CRIDA in Barcelona will continue with the impact on market efficiency or price transmission. And then Alessandro Olper from University of Milano will continue with trade impacts. We'll then have, so these will be short presentations. We will not take questions directly after the presentations, just to get the flow going. But we'll open the discussion after the presentations, and Jacques Peerlings from Wageningen University will open that discussion, and then the floor is open for everyone to ask their questions. Again, if you have questions, post them in the questions and answers, and then we will pick them up as we move through the session. Now we're focusing on EU food quality schemes, and this is not a surprise to you, but I just put the pictures on the right-hand side of this slide. We're focusing especially on geographic indications, so the PDO and PGIs in the EU policy. All right, looking at the impact of food quality schemes on farm performance. This is a picture that we made based on the DOOR dataset, so gathering all the information on the NUTS2 level of the use of these PDO and PGI schemes, and it's already evident from this picture that the concentration of EU food quality schemes is especially in the south of the European Union, obviously. Now, the first analysis that we did focused on the adoption of these food quality schemes. So again, using the DOOR data set, so all the registrations of PDOs and PGIs. And then we combined that with Eurostat data at the NUTS2 region level. We did a Tobit regression analysis to then find out what the determinants of adoption are. And as you could have seen in the picture just before, there is a huge difference, of course, in this uptake across regions and across countries as well. Uptake is still low in the east of the European Union, but there is some evidence that these countries are catching up, so that registrations are increasing. Let's say the most agro-industrial agricultural complexes, the countries that are focused on that, they have the lowest uptake. We're thinking, among others, of the Netherlands and the northern countries. And what we do not observe is that uptake is higher in poorer regions, and that's brings out an interesting conclusion, or at least it raises questions, because this food quality scheme policy of the EU is said to be targeting rural development in marginal and less favored areas, and we don't find evidence that this is actually combined, this uptake of FQS, and that it's higher in marginal areas. Right. Then the second main analysis is looking at the impact of uptake on farm incomes, and for that we used FADN dataset, and we focus especially on olives and wine specialists, because these are just the sectors where there is the highest uptake of PDO PGI, at least based on the FADN data, or the farms that are included in the FADN data. To control for potential selection bias, we used an endogenous switching regression model, and farm net income was used as a dependent variable. And what came out of that analysis? Well, actually we found significantly negative treatment effects. So that means that adoption of these food quality schemes leads to lower incomes for both olive and wine specialists. We did some robustness checks, so other model specifications, also using a propensity score matching, and then the results are less extreme, so not so negative, or even in the case of olives, it was a positive. But again, the results raised doubt about this EU policy for food quality schemes, whether it really fulfills the objective of stimulating rural development in remote or marginalized areas in Europe. And then looking ahead, so I think it's clear. I mean, this if we want to do quantitative analysis, quantitative robust research, at this moment there's still very little evidence on the impact of food quality schemes on farm performance or on rural development. There are some exceptions, I mean, besides the work that we did, but still scarce. And I thought it was striking that if you have seen maybe the recent evaluation at the EU level of GI programs, of these food quality schemes, they also looked at the income effects of GI adoption, but they just looked at the averages, comparing averages across adopters and non-adopters. And that is not robust research because there is obviously a potential for selection bias. So just looking at these averages is not enough. So my suggestion, or what comes out of this research, is that we should really simplify and broaden the access to data at the EU level. We had a lot of difficulty getting access to the FEDN. It's a difficult procedure and so on. And I think it really fits in the whole move towards open science, that data should be easily accessible. And then, of course, we also need improved quality of the available data. There's a lot of missing information. Maybe the relevant questions are not included in these huge data sets. And that's really needed if we want to do good research and robust research, and if we really want to answer these questions of, do we have an impact with these EU policies? Okay, I think I stopped sharing. Did that work? Right. Okay, good. Kima, I'll hand the floor to you so that you can give your 5 minutes.
Okay, well, I'm going to present the results. Elizabeth have talked about farm, and now we are going to talk about supply chain. And the idea basically is to analyze price relationships along the food supply chain in quality schemes food products. We have two main research topics in here. One was price transmission, and the other was volatility. And the idea was to see if food quality schemes and conventional products follow different patterns in terms of price transmission and volatility transmission. That was the main idea. So I'm going to present mainly the So the main job here was to assess how the prices from different food quality schemes are transmitted to the food marketing chain, and also if with these quality schemes it's possible to reduce the traditional volatility in food markets. One of the most important things that we discovered is that even everybody is talking about food quality schemes, there is an enormous lack of data sources. So we can only find 3 examples in all Europe in which we can analyze farm prices or wholesale prices or retail prices. There is a lot of information from conventional products, but there is a total lack of transparency in terms of price data. So we identified 2 case studies in Spain, which is the beef and the lamb in Navarra, in the north part of Spain, and they have a PGI product with conventional. And we talk in Italy. We also were able through thanks to Filippo Arfini data about the Parmigiano Reggiano. This is the idea. So this is a little bit. All the methodological framework based here is in time series econometrics, allowing also for nonlinearities and asymmetries in order to analyze the problems of market power along the food supply chain. And the case studies has been already. So I'm going directly to the key messages from the 2 analyses. First, I'm going to talk about the price transmission. The specific question here is first to analyze comparison always with the traditional markets. If the food quality schemes compare the magnitude and the speed of response of prices at different levels of the marketing chain to supply or demand shocks. So what's happened if there is a supply chain of our price, how the marketing chain reacts, similar, what happens if there is a demand shock, how the supply chain reacts. Second was to analyze the nature of response. If the reactions to positive or negative shocks are of the same magnitude, so try to test if there is some asymmetries in the behavior, and finally also the direction of the response. If there is more supply oriented or this demand pull oriented, that was the idea. Our expectations was that in food quality schemes, we expect more symmetric behavior because there is less opportunities for the retailers to exert the market power because the product has to be produced under specific circumstances. So we cannot buy product in other region or in other countries. So we expect more symmetric behavior in this case of things. So the data methods is threshold vector correction models and nonlinear input response functions, as I mentioned. So the main results here is that one of the things is that price shocks were fully transmitted along supply chain in both systems, conventional food quality schemes, but we identify faster responses in the quality schemes. So reactions are much faster. Sorry. Okay, and much faster than in the quality scheme. Second, as we expected, the asymmetries were more significant in the conventional system. So in that case, food quality schemes they have generated more symmetric behavior than in the conventional system, although some asymmetries. And so the idea finally is the main results is okay, at least for the small examples or the 3 examples that we have identified. Food quality system has contributed to mitigate a little bit the price asymmetrics in the supply chain, trying to equilibrate a little bit the market power between retailers and producers. In relation to the second was try to analyze a similar but trying to price volatility and transmission of price volatility. So the idea was 3 specific questions. Try to identify which are the main drivers of volatile spillovers in the system. To analyze also again if there is some asymmetric behavior in terms of volatility, but with volatility increases and volatility decreases, the effect is the same, which is different. And the most important question is to what extent food quality schemes have improved to reduce price volatility along the food market chain. We analyze price volatility because it's more related to uncertainty and it's more related to investments. With price transmission is more oriented to market issues. Again, we have time series econometrics. In that case, we have a multivariate Garcher models with allowing for asymmetry. My last transparency is in relation to the main issues in price volatility. There is very limited volatility, especially from retail prices in both systems, but it was more significant in the conventional system. Second, we have identified also some asymmetric effects in the conventional system, but in the food quality schemes, prices or volatility spillover are much more symmetric. So again, main result is that food quality schemes has been proven to be useful to reduce price volatility along the food marketing chain, which is one of the main criteria to assess. And this is my main results. I'm going to share the as Lisbeth has shown. One of the main things apart from the results is that we have discovered a very problematic lack of data to carry out this kind of analysis, because it will be nice to see if these results are more common in other food quality schemes. Thanks, Anne.
Thank you very much, Kima. Alessandro, good to see you. Are you ready to start your presentation?
Good morning to everybody. I am Alessandro Alper from Milano University. In the Strength2Food project, I and the teams that I led study the trade effect of geographical indication policy, focusing clearly on the EU case. The result of this analysis has been recently published on the Journal of Agricultural Economics. Basically, what is the problem in hand? We can say that a few topics has been so controversial in international trade talks have the protection of a geographical indication in international market. And basically, the failure to arrive at the multilateral agreement in the WTO triggered recently a new wave of bilateral deals where the EU and the United States have had success in promoting their different view on geographical indication protection system at the international level, and so this clearly raises a problem at concerning international trade. However, until now, we still lack clear empirical evidence about how the GI policy could impact on international trade. And this is one of the main research questions that we will try to address in this analysis. So basically what we studied in the project, we try to investigate to what extent the EU GI policy affects the EU performance in the international markets. And to this end, we built a very large data set by matching manually more than 1,300 EU GI products with trade data at a very detailed level. Then we developed an extensive econometric analysis to investigate to what extent cross-country and time-series variation in the diffusion of EU geographical indication products affected trade outcomes on international markets. Concerning the key findings of our analysis, I will start with some studied fact, so simple correlation, and then I move to a quantification of the trade effect made econometrically. Basically, in this graph, we construct the growth in the trade performance between GI product and non-GI product in the last 15 years, showing basically that the former performed significantly better than the latter, both considering internal trade as reported in this slide, but also considering external trade, meaning that basically producer of GI product export more both within the European Union, but also on international market outside the European Union. Concerning the quantification of the GI trade effect, we find that when we consider intra-EU trade, a new GI in the EU exporting country increased intra-EU trade by about 4%, so showing a clear export promotion effect of the GI policy. And similarly, a new GI in the EU importing country decreased, in that case, import by about 5.2%, showing also an import reduction effect of the GI policy. Interesting, we find a similar effect when we consider extra-EU trade, but only if the foreign country has not a similar GI policy like the one of the European Union. We make also some deeper analysis to understand the mechanisms that are driving these results, and basically the growth in trade of GI product is driven mainly by the increase of both the extensive margin, the so-called the probability to trade, but also the intensive margin. Interesting, we find also some results that suggest to us that there is an increase in the export price. Going to the conclusion, and importantly to the implication of this analysis, in this study we showed that the EU GI policy has had a relevant trade promoting effect on both the intra and the extra-EU trade, also affected the trade on the import side of the story. The main implication of our analysis is that from the EU side, protected geographical indication in the international market appear extremely important to increase the value added of farm activities. Clearly, there are also some issues in this analysis, and issues that should be addressed in the future has been mainly due to the fact that until now there is a lack of official trade data that univocally give us the possibility to classify geographical indication versus non-geographical indication product in the trade data. And this clearly is a problem that should be addressed by an international statistical office like the Eurostat one. Thank you very much for your attention.
Jacques Peerlings, I give you the floor to conclude this session.
Yeah, thank you. I luckily also read your the summary, so I was less hindered by the quality of the sound. I think you both did very interesting research, but also hindered, just like Lisbeth, with the lack of data. Huh? And that's a pity, I think, also because what I noticed is that the GIs studied are the ones who are, you could say, big products that are traded and that are following different stages in a supply chain. While that's more a comment that there are, of course, also very small GI products where basically probably these they are not internationally traded, or the transmission because they have short supply chains is of course less relevant. I had a question to Kema about, I was a bit puzzled because your first research, vertical transmission, you clearly show that there's less market power for the retailers, but I would expect that there is more, you hope that there's also more market power maybe for the GI product itself. And actually your second research seems to indicate that there is, because prices are more stable, basically showing, I would say, that there's probably more market power for the producers. Am I right?
Yeah, you are fully right. Yes, because it's a narrow market in most of the cases, and also the two examples I have. But instead of Parmigiano Reggiano, which has a big market and is well known, the other two is very small markets. It's in Navarra. Nobody knows about that apart from the people living there. So the problem is that they have contracts, long-term contracts between the different stakeholders around the food chain, and this is why they keep this kind of stability in terms of prices. But yeah, the market power is between the PGI against the conventional. Yeah, fully right, and that's the results. Yeah.
And then I had a small question to Alessandro. You indicate that the market, that basically there seems to be that the importers that the EU starts focusing more on high quality, let's say, and that the importers to the EU, or the exporters to the EU, that they focus more on low quality. But I was a bit surprised by that, because I would also expect that within the European Union there would also maybe a shift from that some, let's say maybe the Netherlands, who doesn't have these GIs, is focusing maybe on low quality, while maybe Italy with the GIs is focusing on high quality. Do you also observe that kind of fact, this kind of intra-European Union, that there's also this kind of shift going on?
And in the analysis that we made, basically do not find this effect, because when we work on the price effect induced by the new GI introduced in the market, we will always find a positive price effect. Clearly, say that we find a positive price effect means that there is an increase in quality, because it's dependent. There is a fundamental identification problem when you work on GI, because in the tariff line we have simultaneously GI and not GI product, because the Eurostat and the European Union still now did not have this possibility to separate the tariff line, and so to identify precisely what happened in the international market when you export a GI or a not GI product. Now there is a new paper that tries to figure out, because if you work on the cheese sector at 8-digit level, it is possible to identify precisely if you are exporting GI or not GI. And the results of this paper are particularly interesting, because they basically make a test of what's going on in the new free trade agreement that the European Union signed in the last 10 years, more or less, starting from South Korea to the one of Canada, just to see if the GI listed within this free trade agreement have an advantages in the destination market. And the result is that there is no advantages. So the listed GI on the export side do not more than not listed GI. So there is an overall positive effect in this agreement due to the GI provision, but not specific for the GI.
Clearly points out that we need more data.
We need more data, absolutely. Otherwise, it's impossible to better figure out what's going on in international markets.
Okay, I think that's the main conclusion from our session. And we have run out of time, so we have to close here. Thank you, Kema, for your presentation. Thank you, Alessandro. And thank you, Jack.